Once upon a time, in a remote village nestled in the distant mountains of Africa, there lived a man named Baako. He lived alone, isolated from the rest of the villagers, for he carried a strange and extraordinary secret. Upon Baako's head grew two large horns, much like those of an antelope, a feature unheard of in any man from the region. From a young age, the villagers shunned Baako, whispering that he was cursed. Whenever he ventured out of his small, secluded hut, people would cast fearful glances in his direction, as if he were a harbinger of misfortune. The children often mocked him, calling him a monster or the cursed man. The adults were no kinder, believing that Baako's presence brought bad luck, and that he would bring ruin to the village if he came too close. Over time, Baako resigned himself to a life of solitude, living quietly on the edge of the village, far from the people who feared and scorned him. He survived through hunting and foraging, never venturing beyond his lonely existence. Deep inside, Baako always wondered why he was treated this way. The horns, a natural part of him, were seen as something monstrous by the villagers. As a child, he had even tried to cut them off, but they only grew back stronger. Growing up in isolation, Baako had never experienced the warmth of family, the bond of friendship, or the joy of love. However, not everyone in the village was afraid of Baako. There was a young woman named Zuri, beautiful and kind-hearted, who saw the world with eyes of compassion rather than fear. Zuri was different from the others. She did not see Baako as a threat. Though she never spoke to him directly, Zuri often left food and water outside Baako's door, a silent gesture of her empathy. Zuri, raised in a humble farming family, was taught that kindness and generosity were the most valuable gifts one could possess. Her parents, hardworking and simple folk, had instilled in her the belief that one should never judge another by appearances alone. It was this upbringing that had drawn Zuri's attention to Baako, the man whom everyone else avoided. Zuri's heart ached for Baako. She often watched him from afar, his lonely figure and sorrowful eyes haunting her thoughts. She knew that behind the horns and the strange appearance was a human being with a soul. Many times, she wanted to approach him and speak, but she feared what the villagers might say or do if they discovered her kindness toward Baako. Every time Zuri left her home to visit Baako, her heart would race. She knew her actions might be misunderstood, but she didn't care. She wanted to help Baako, even if it was in small, quiet ways. What Zuri didn't know was that Baako had noticed her presence long ago. From the small window of his hut, Baako would silently watch as Zuri approached. His heart would pound with every light step she took on the path leading to his home. Each time he saw her, he wanted to step out and thank her, but fear held him back. He feared he might frighten her, or worse, that the villagers would retaliate against her if they discovered any connection between them. Yet Baako couldn't stop himself from waiting for Zuri's arrival every day. Her small acts of kindness brought him a glimmer of hope, a feeling he thought he had lost long ago. As the harvest season approached, the village prepared for the grandest festival of the year, to give thanks to the gods for their bountiful crops. The harvest festival was a significant occasion for everyone in the village. The rhythmic beating of drums, the joyful laughter, and the traditional dances filled the air with vibrant energy. Everyone in the village participated in the celebration. Everyone except Baako. Standing at a distance, Baako watched as the village immersed itself in the festivities, his heart heavy with longing. He wanted to be part of that joy, to share in the celebration and feel the warmth of the community. But he knew he didn't belong there. The horns on his head constantly reminded him that his presence would only bring fear and discomfort. During the night of the festival, as the villagers celebrated, a group of strange hunters arrived in the village. They had heard rumors of a horned man living nearby, and believed Baako to be a rare creature they could capture and sell for a fortune. These hunters quickly devised a plan to ambush Baako. They found him sitting alone in the forest, lost in his thoughts. The hunters bound him tightly with ropes, leaving him helpless. The villagers, seeing Baako tied and dragged into the center of the village, were terrified. Some even believed that Baako truly was a monster and that his capture was necessary. But amidst the crowd, Zuri appeared. When she saw Baako being treated like a wild beast, her heart shattered. She could not stand by and watch the man she had silently cared for be treated this way. Rushing forward, Zuri stood between Baako and the hunters, demanding that they release him. Zuri spoke out with a voice full of courage. "He is not a monster. He has protected us, living in isolation because we do not understand him. Why are we betraying him now?" Her words echoed through the village, silencing everyone. The hunters, angered by Zuri's interference, prepared to strike her down. But before they could act, Bako's horns began to glow with a brilliant light. A mysterious force, a power connected to the natural world, surged through him, terrifying the hunters and forcing them to flee. The villagers, witnessing this miraculous display, finally understood that Baako was not cursed as they had thought. Instead, they saw his strength and kindness in protecting Zuri and the village from danger. From that day forward, Baako was no longer shunned. The villagers slowly welcomed him as one of their own, and his horns became a symbol of protection rather than fear. Baako and Zuri grew closer, their bond deepening as they spent more time together. Zuri began to visit Baako more openly, and they would often walk along the riverbanks under the shade of the ancient baobab trees. Baako, once a man who struggled to express his emotions, began to open up to Zuri. They shared stories of their past, their dreams, and their hidden pain. Baako told Zuri of his lonely childhood, nights spent listening to the wild animals and the wind in the trees, always feeling abandoned and unloved. Zuri listened with understanding eyes, her heart full of empathy. Though she had grown up surrounded by love, she had always felt compassion for those who suffered. She shared with Baako her own experiences of striving to do good, even when her efforts went unnoticed. As time passed, their love blossomed. Zuri saw the gentle soul within Baako, and she knew there was no one in the world who understood her as he did. Though Baako still bore the burden of his horns, he began to embrace life again. He no longer felt alone, for Zuri was by his side, brave, kind, and full of love.